What is up, my friends? Welcome back to Flippin' Bats. We got about 3 weeks left of the baseball season, depending on off days and stuff. About 18, 19 games left for certain teams. We are certainly coming down the home stretch. We're going to talk about it today. The NL wildcard race is wild. One, where would the Braves be without Chris Sale? We're going to talk about him. Ohtani's 50-50 update, the Houston Astros playoff rotation, where Justin belongs in that conversation, if he makes the playoff conversation. We'll talk about him and his most recent start and how the Astros should shape up there. Um, the Mets and what they're doing right now. I mean, it's the dog days of summer, and the New York Mets feel like they're the only team that's not really going through it right now. Went on their longest winning streak since 2018, 9 games in a row, find themselves tied with the Atlanta Braves for a playoff spot as we currently speak. Um, by the way, I know Lindor's getting a lot of MVP talk and the conversations there with Ohtani or Lindor or who's more valuable. And that's true. Lindor deserves that conversation. But Mark Vientos has been phenomenal for the Mets. I mean, the Mets aren't where they are right now, if not for what Mark Vientos is doing for them. I mean, over the last month, he's hitting 312 with a 950 OPS, 284 with a 900 OPS on the entire year. I mean, man, really under the radar what he's doing for the team. The Mets have been on fire. They've needed an extra offensive bat to step up. McNeil goes down for the year. So shout out to the Mets when everybody in baseball seemingly is going through it a little bit. The Mets have not been one of those teams. And the NL wildcard race is really a four team race right now with the Padres, D-backs, the Braves, and the Mets. They are tied for that final spot. It's exciting. Also today, going to talk about the Detroit Tigers because they ain't out of it. It's almost middle of September. Again, 3 weeks left, and the Detroit Tigers aren't out of it, baby. So we'll talk about them as well. But let's start by talking about the Houston Astros. Where does Justin Verlander fit for the Houston Astros come October? I think the Astros are going to win the division. They're 4.5 games up with 18 to go. I think the Astros win the division, and I think the Astros rotation has been a strong suit for them. And the conversation's becoming after Justin's most recent start, where he gave up 8 earned runs on Sunday in his 3 innings, meaning now since he's come back from injury, he's thrown 17 and 2/3 innings and given up 19 earned runs in that time. So 17 and 2/3 innings since returning, 19 runs in that time. That's a 9.68 ERA. Sunday, gave up a grand slam on Sunday to Pavin Smith. First grand slam given up since April of 2010. I couldn't tell you before I saw this stat the last time Justin gave up a grand slam. And the reasoning for that is because I was still in high school. April of 2010. It's the second longest span between grand slams in Major League Baseball history. John Franco went 15 years. Justin's gone 14 plus years. So it hasn't been pretty. He said he felt really good physically, but the results were, and then he paused and said, atrocious. And then you look at the Astros and start to wonder, okay, let's talk playoff baseball. Let's talk October and this rotation. Framber Valdez, dominant lately. His sinker is back. Refound that thing. It is nasty right now. Framber Valdez has been really good. Hunter Brown been dominating since finding a sinker of his own. Yusei Kikuchi has been really good for the Astros. Astros have won every single game that he's pitched in. Ronel Blanco, probably the most consistent pitcher all year long. Sub-3 ERA on the season and 27 starts. Spencer Arrighetti has been really good as well. So the question becomes, where's Justin fit in here? And everyone's going to say, Ben, you're biased. And my answer is yes, you're right. But the truth of the matter is there are 3 weeks left of the season. He'll have about probably 3 starts before October. And those starts are going to determine if he's on the playoff roster, which is wild to say. But in my opinion, I think his stuff, we're just talking stuff, his stuff looks good. His last start, velocity is there in the mid 90s. Off speed stuff looks good. His command is not good. And if we're being honest, again, this is his spring training. This is his spring training. He's made 5 starts since returning. And this has been his spring training. 17 and 2/3 innings pitched since returning from a long injury. Before that, before the injury at the beginning of the year, he had a 3.9 ERA for the season. So now he comes back. He's working through it. He didn't really have a ramp up. He went on a couple rehab starts, but that doesn't really count. Now you're facing big leaguers, and the dog days of summer during the season, they're absolutely rolling. They're in the thick of things, and you're trying to catch up. So I don't think he's a lock right now to make the playoff rotation, but I do think he has 3 more starts to figure it out. And if you don't think Justin's going to figure it out, you're wrong. How many times have we heard this? He's washed. He's too old. He's getting Tommy John surgery at 40 years old. He's too old. Cy Young. Cy Young Award. World Series. First World Series win. He's getting too old. He's not doing great. Mets are trading him. Mets having a terrible season. Back to the ALCS. Another good year once he got traded. He's been doubted so many times at this point. And I'm not saying people don't understand that he's one of the best pitchers of all time. I think people are just saying, all right, this is it. This is the time that age has caught up with him, and he's not the same pitcher anymore. Well, I would disagree with that. I think his stuff is there. His command's been awful. And these are his spring training starts, essentially. And I think he has 3 more starts to figure it out. I think 2 of his last 3 starts need to be good. If they are, I think he makes the playoff rotation. He's an arm that you want in your rotation come October. He knows opposing hitters better than anybody. He studies the game better than anybody. He knows how to pitch in October. That's huge. Experience is huge in October. That's why the Houston Astros are inevitable. I've been saying it for years. I was saying it when the Astros stunk earlier in the year. The Astros are inevitable. Why? Because they know how to win when they need to. When their backs are against the wall, they know how to win. And having that veteran presence is a huge part of that. And having Justin a part of that in October is going to be huge for them. Is their rotation going to be fine either way? I think so. They got some really good arms you can run out there. I think the Houston Astros are going to have Justin in their starting rotation for one of the games. Maybe not a 3-game series, but I don't think they're going to be, who knows if they're going to be a part of a 3-game series. We'll see. But maybe he doesn't get one of the starts in those first 3 games, but I think maybe game 4 start. Again, 3 starts left to figure it out. I absolutely think he's going to, and you absolutely want Justin Verlander in your rotation come October time. Call me biased? Sure, I am. I am never going to argue that. He's my brother. I want him to pitch in October. I want him to do great. But I can also look in the mirror and say, yeah, he hasn't been good. But objectively, he has 3 starts left. He's thrown 17 and 2/3 innings since returning from a pretty lengthy injury. And he's got to figure out his command. And if he doesn't do that, he might not be a part of the playoff rotation. If he does figure it out, well, we'll see in October. We'll see. From one of Justin's team to another, Detroit Tigers. Don't look now, but the Detroit Tigers are 3.5 games out of a playoff spot with 18 games to go. They get the Colorado Rockies this week, and you get to finish the season with the Chicago White Sox at home. 18 games left. You got 6 of those games against very subpar opponents, but you also are dealing with 6 against Baltimore, 3, a huge series at Kansas City. So let's step back and talk about it. I want the Tigers to make the playoffs. I'm a Tigers fan. I root for the Tigers. I played for the organization for 5 years, grew up around the organization. I'll always root for them. It's been a tough, almost decade. It's been a tough stretch for the Detroit Tigers. So let's talk about it. They have to pass the Minnesota Twins. With the winning streak that the Kansas City Royals have gone on, we're not going to talk too much about the AL Central because by and large, it's been a mess. But the Royals have gone back on a roll. Twins have gone on a bit of a tough stretch. They have to pass the Twins. They're 3.5 games behind them. Unfortunately, a problem for the Detroit Tigers is that the Twins won the season series by a game. 7-6 over the Tigers on the season series. So they hold the tiebreaker. You have to pass them. So for sake of the conversation, really, you're looking at it like they're 4.5 games back because you can't afford a tie. But they're 3.5 games back. You have to pass the Twins, who have the Angels, the Reds, and the Marlins left to play. 9 games against the Angels, Reds, and Marlins. So the schedule is certainly favorable for the Minnesota Twins. Now, you have Tarek Skubal, who's tied for the league lead in wins on a team that hasn't been great this year, I wouldn't say. Tarek Skubal, tied for the league lead in wins. All of Major League Baseball. He's been fantastic. He's going to win the AL Cy Young Award. I called that before the season started. Tarek Skubal is going to take the next step forward and win the Cy Young Award and prove that he's one of the best pitchers in the game of baseball. Well, I can sit here now and in mid-September and say that Tarek Skubal's the best pitcher in the game of baseball. Unbelievable. Lefty, throws 100 miles an hour, nasty off-speed stuff. He has been phenomenal this year and a huge reason why the Tigers are where they are. Then you start getting some guys come back from injury. Kerry Carpenter's been really good. You have Parker Meadows hitting grand slams with 2 outs and 2 strikes on the road in the 9th inning against the San Diego Padres to win games. The Tigers really set themselves in a hole, a big hole, and they've seemingly done that for a couple of years in a row now. But they're out of that hole. They're making a push, regardless of what happens. Regardless of what happens. And I don't say this lightly because I think the Tigers have needed to turn it around for a while. The Tigers have turned it around. And regardless of what happened, this has been a successful turnaround season for the Detroit Tigers. Is it likely that they make the playoffs? No. But is it possible? Yes. And that is more than we Tigers fans have been able to say in nearly a decade. They can do it. They just need some help. And they have to sweep the Colorado Rockies in their next 3 games. A must-sweep series against a bad opponent. Must sweep there, must sweep the last 3 games, and you got yourselves a chance, my friends. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for the Tigers. Always have, always will. Also, another guy I always have and always will root for, Shohei Ohtani. Little Shohei Ohtani 50-50 update. Hit his 46th homer over the weekend, tying his career high. So he's already tied his career high in homers with 3 weeks left in the season. He's got 100 RBIs for the Dodgers, which is remarkable considering he's been largely in the leadoff spot. I would say half the season he's been hitting leadoff. So you look now at what he's on pace for. He's at 46. Well, he's on pace for 52 homers and 52 stolen bases. 46 and 46 is already the highest in history that a player has ever reached in both. That 46 homer a couple of days ago was absolutely smashed. 116.7 miles an hour. You know the territory he's putting himself in here? Dodger Stadium has had 55 440-foot plus home runs under the StatCast era, which is the 3rd fewest of any current MLB park. Oracle is the worst, Giants Stadium. Shohei Ohtani already has 8, the most 440-foot plus homer by any player at Dodger Stadium. And he has 12 this season. That's tied for the most by a Dodger in a career under StatCast. Jock Peterson with 12. He's tied that this season. He's the only player with multiple 450-foot plus home runs at Dodger Stadium in a career. He has 6 this season at Dodger Stadium. He has 9 total on this season. That's the second most in a season behind only Giancarlo Stanton in 2017. It's insanity what he's doing. He's minus 900, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, to win the MVP award. Lindor has closed the gap. Lindor is having a really good season. Lindor and the Mets are pushing for a playoff spot. If he can get the Mets to a playoff spot, that helps his conversation. But I really think the conversation starts and ends with Shohei Ohtani's going to go 50-50. 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases. He's going to be the first player in history to do that. He's already the first player in history to ever go 46, 46, but those aren't round numbers, and we like round numbers. You want round numbers? Shohei's going to go 50-50. He's going to hit the most 450-foot plus home runs in a single season in Dodger Stadium history. He's already hit the most in Dodger State for a Dodger in their career since the StatCast era. Again, that's 2015 and on. He's already done that. He's breaking all-time Dodger Stadium records, and it's September of his first season. 46 homers, tying his career high. Got that over the weekend. He's getting 50-50. He's going to win the MVP. And I really don't think I don't think there's much of a conversation to be had. What Francisco Lindor is doing is remarkable. And yes, I don't think the Mets are where they are without him. So we can have the whole conversation of what does valuable mean? You take Lindor off the Mets and they're not a playoff team. You take Ohtani off the Dodgers and they are a playoff team. This is the conversation that just pisses me off. Yeah, those are true statements. But we were saying the same thing when Ohtani was with the Angels. You take him off the Angels, they're not a playoff team. You take Aaron Judge off the Yankees, and they're not a play. Whatever. I don't know. I get too heated to even make a real thought with this. It's not Ohtani's fault that he's gone from a really bad team to a really good team. Sure, you take Ohtani off the Dodgers, they're not a playoff team. But if we're going to talk best season in the National League, I guess the conversation becomes what is the most valuable player? Because forever, the way it's been voted on is who had the best year? Who had the best season? And if this were close, if this were closer offensively, then you have to look at the fact that Francisco Lindor is playing a fantastic shortstop, a premier position, and give the award to him. But this isn't close. It's not close offensively. Shohei Ohtani is one of one in a career. He's one of one. This season, he is one of one. And he's not pitching this year. And he's found another way to do something one of one. Steal 50 bases, hit 50 homers. And that's something that I don't think we'll ever see again. Talked about it on Saturday with Smoltz. This past Saturday. Asked John Smoltz about it, and he said, yeah, I don't think we'll ever see 50-50 again. I think this is the one and only time we'll ever see it. Because Shohei's going to go back to pitching. He's not going to run as much. I don't think you can have somebody with the power and the speed that Shohei has shown this year. So this will probably be the one and only time we ever see it. Should win an MVP award for it as well. So if you haven't checked that out, by the way, go check out Saturday with Smoltz. Every single Saturday, the Hall of Famer joins us here on Flippin' Bats. He will next week, this coming weekend as well. So make sure you check those out. Make sure you're subscribed to Flippin' Bats, by the way. It does really help. Hit that follow, subscribe button. Leave a review if you want. Those things really do help us here. And Shohei Ohtani, MVP of the National League this year. Again, minus 900 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. So unless he really falls off and doesn't hit 4 more homers, again, 18 or 19 more games this year for the Dodgers. There's 4 homers in 18, 19 games is not a guarantee. I do think he'll get there with stolen bases, but we'll see if he gets there with homers. I do think he will, but he could go on a slide. Aaron Judge has been on a slide on the American League side of things. There's a chance he doesn't get to 60 homers this year. A good chance. I mean, he's at 51. He's 5 homers ahead of Shohei Ohtani, by the way, which isn't crazy. Really slowed his pace. Hasn't hit a homer in a couple of weeks. Hitting well under 200 for a couple of weeks. So Aaron Judge's pace has really slowed, and that could happen to Shohei, and he might not get to 50. But we will see. Mentioned Tarek Skubal in the American League Cy Young conversation and talking about the Tigers. Tied for the league lead in wins. Well, he's tied with a guy named Chris Sale. Where would the Atlanta Braves be without Chris Sale? If you were to tell me at the beginning of the year, yeah, you're going to lose Spencer Strider for the season and Ronald Acuna Jr. for the season, I'd say, man, the Braves probably screwed. Well, just another start over the weekend of 6 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, 0 earned runs. Got the no decision, by the way. But Chris Sale, everybody thought he was washed. Nope, done. Not the same. too injury plagued, so many injuries. He's not the same. Hasn't been the same since he left the White Sox. Not great with the Red Sox. His tenure there kept getting injured. Well, this year he's 16-3 with a 2.38 ERA, 213 strikeouts, and 166 innings. He leads Major League Baseball in strikeouts. He leads Major League Baseball in ERA, and he's tied for the league in Major League Baseball in wins, meaning he's a win away from having the MLB Triple Crown for a pitcher. He's minus 4,500 to win the Cy Young Award, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. And a big part for me why I say, where would the Braves be without him? Well, obviously, they needed him and his talent in the rotation. But every time they've lost, when Chris Sale takes the mound, he has a 1.32 ERA in the 12 starts that he has made following a Braves loss. The Braves aren't a playoff team. And again, there's no guarantee they make the playoffs. But the Braves aren't a playoff team without Chris Sale. And what'd you have to give away for him? Vaughn Grissom, who, again, I'm not saying that as any slight to him. He's a very young player. We don't know what he might turn into. But he had 148 in 81 ABs to start the year before he lands on the IL. He's currently in AAA, 148 without a home run, 75 ABs in the big leagues last year, 0 home runs. So 0 big league homers in the last 2 years. And you think about it as the Braves, and what'd you have to give up to get him? Well, man, we feel really good. We feel really good about what we gave up to get Chris Sale. And the Red Sox probably aren't feeling great. They sort of, I don't want to say gave up on him, but traded him at his lowest value. And man, where could the Red Sox be with Chris Sale? That's an entirely different conversation. They need offense, that's true, but their rotation certainly would be a lot better. So you give up, if you're the Braves, you give up Vaughn Grissom. If you're the Boston Red Sox, you give up the next NL Cy Young Award winner and give away $17.5 million to do it. So essentially, you're just getting money off the books here. So what happened is this wasn't just a salary dump. You dumped a Cy Young Award winner. You dumped the best pitcher in baseball ERA-wise, and $17.5 million to get Vaughn Grissom. It is not looking good for the Red Sox with that trade. It is really looking good for the Atlanta Braves. If the Braves get into the playoffs, he's your game one starter. He's been phenomenal. The Braves rotation has been huge this year. If I were to tell you that the Braves rotation was going to be one of the best in baseball and they weren't going to have Spencer Strider, you'd say, what? How? Well, Chris Sale, Reynaldo Lopez, Max Fried, Schwellenbach has been really good. I mean, across the board, they've been fantastic and really, really needed it. And now they're in the battle for their lives in the NL East. And this is going to come down to, this is something John Smoltz said the other day. It's going to come down. The NL East is going to come down to the Philadelphia Phillies because all of these teams have to play the Phillies a bunch, and they're going to beat up on each other. And it's going to come down to, between the Mets and the Braves, who can beat the Phillies more. We'll see. But I know when the Braves have Chris Sale taking the mound, they've never felt better with anybody this year. He's been really, really good. He's never won a Cy Young Award, ever. You look back and you think, yeah, Chris Sale's probably won a Cy Young Award, right? Well, no, didn't do it with the White Sox. Hasn't ever done it. Never obviously won a Triple Crown, the pitcher Triple Crown. Has a chance to do that this year. Is going to win the NL Cy Young Award. And I don't know where the Atlanta Braves would be without him. I can promise you it wouldn't be in a playoff spot. The Atlanta Braves don't make the playoffs without Chris Sale. So things are rolling. Episode comes out September 10th. We got a wild NL wild card race. Again, it's the Braves and the Mets right there tied for that final wild card spot. Again, as I'm recording on Monday, I know Mets are playing, so we'll see what happens. But tied for a wild card spot as we currently speak. You got the D-backs not having a great week, losing a series to the Houston Astros. You have the Padres who are just ahead of them. So really, it's a 4-team race for 3 spots. Padres and D-backs could fall off, but I would consider those two the favorites of the 4. And really, you got the Mets and the Braves, and who's going to get in between those two? And right now, how do you not say the Mets with the streak they've been on, the vibes they have? Mark Vientos killing it for him, Lindor killing it for him, and it just feels like it, and it has continued to feel like it's not the Braves' year. But right when you think that, one guy after another steps up. They just have had thing after injury after injury happen to them. And the fact that they are even here is remarkable. Their team is really good. If they get in, you don't want to face the Atlanta Braves. But they're going up against the hottest team in baseball right now in the New York Mets to even get into the playoffs. And we'll see if they're going to be able to do that. But fun show today. We got a lot happening in the game of baseball. The big conversation, what are the Astros going to do with Justin come playoff time? I'm interested in everybody's thoughts and opinions there. If you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment there what you think should happen. If you're listening, I would love to know on social media. We have all social media. We post clips everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything. So leave a comment there. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave a comment there as well. But really, just make sure you're subscribed everywhere. Again, it really helps. Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Also the YouTube channel, also all the socials. But really appreciate it. Thank you all for listening and watching. If you haven't yet, the conversation with John Smoltz on Saturday was really good. So finish this one, go back to listen. Every week with Smoltz. It's 3 questions, about 15 minutes. I love that episode. Just some quick hitting questions to a Hall of Famer that has a lot of knowledge in the game. Go back to listen to that. We'll do it again this coming Saturday, and we'll do it all again next week. So thank you all for listening. It really means a ton. Really appreciate it. And until next time, my friends, remember, find your bat and flip it. Peace.